in my family, there's no history of ballet or theatre or arts whatsoever. My mum and dad possibly thought that they wanted to give us opportunities to broaden outside of just academics. I would be sent to just lessons after school, I went to violin lessons, I did ballet classes, I did gymnastics as a hobby basis to give kind of outside interest. Basically, my sister started all these things and I tagged along as coming in second. If my sister did it, then I did it as well. I think it started more with gymnastics though, because there was a gymnastics school around 4. I found a newspaper cutting out recently of me on the beam, and I'm in the splits and my feet are like hooked over, and I'm like, well, it started like from that age. I think I was training with Russians had come over to Northern Ireland, and they were scouting people for the Commonwealth Games. I had started working with them, but I mean, this is like not professional at all. It's kind of as professional as it gets in a place like Northern Ireland, but nothing that you could take to, I don't know, an actual serious level. I've never asked why they sent us in the first place, because it's not like they really knew anything about it. I think it was just something that little girls did. So whenever I was 4 and I started gymnastics lessons, there was no objective in it for that to be a profession. It wasn't something that I was doing because my parents thought, oh, she's going to be a gymnast whenever she grows up. That wasn't even on the realm of understanding. Like the kind of thoughts that would have been in my parents' heads for what I was going to be would be academic or a teacher or a nurse or a lawyer or a banker, something that they understood. I never wanted to do gymnastics for any other reason than I was brought there. Like, I was kind of planted in the room, so I did it. Same with whenever I started ballet, I was planted in the room. I had my little blue leotard and skirt on, and so I did ballet. Like, I did what I was told. I probably started ballet about a year after I had started gymnastics. So if I started gymnastics at 4, I would have been about 5 whenever I started ballet. Like, I did, say, gymnastics on a Friday, so my mum was trying to fill up the afternoons and give me something to do on a Thursday or a Monday or whatever day of the week it was that I did ballet. My ballet classes started in, I don't even know what hall. It was like a town hall, I think, and it was a tiny little room. It probably had a wooden laminate floor, or maybe an old, like proper old wooden floor. We're lucky enough actually that the teachers in Northern Ireland, they really were trying to bring teachers from overseas, because there's no vocational training in Northern Ireland whatsoever. There's no vocational school, there's no company, there's no theatre. So it is hobby basis girls that do ballet in Northern Ireland. It's not thought of as a profession. I didn't even know the Royal Ballet existed up until I was like in my teens. The ballet teacher that I had, she started trying to get more of an involvement from mainland and teachers from the mainland to come over and teach classes. From that, there was scholarships that were awarded for promising students to go to a summer school in Aberdeen. I think there was a joint teacher that maybe came over that worked in this summer school, and just trying to outreach, trying to build it up a little bit more. The summer school that I went to in Aberdeen, that lasted a week, and that was the first time that I came to the understanding that people were in a thing that was called a vocational school. I think there were students from one girl had been at White Lodge in Richmond, and there were students there from Scottish ballet schools, but I think at that time they must have been junior associates or senior associates, so like associated to the company. It was something that no one else was doing in my circle of friends. It was something completely unique, something that I'd never heard of before, something that no one had ever shown me before, or I had never seen, or didn't even know existed. So then after the summer school, I got it into my head that I wanted to join White Lodge, which is the feeder school for Royal Ballet School, which is then the feeder school for the Royal Ballet Company. And I knew nothing about it apart from the brochure that we got sent in the post, and that I read night after night after night, and got an idea into my head that this is what I wanted, and without knowing what it was, without knowing what it entailed, without knowing where it even was proposed to lead to. It was just that I wanted to do that. So when I got home after this summer school and started talking to my parents and started like really pushing the idea that I wanted to join a vocational ballet school, their immediate reaction was to refuse based on education and their fear of the unknown, and because they knew nothing of that world. They knew that they couldn't help, they couldn't advise, they couldn't push me in any direction because they literally knew nothing about it. It was an idea that I brought to the table, and they had no input whatsoever. They didn't shatter my dream. They said that just to postpone it a little bit. They wanted me to stay in Northern Ireland and do my GCSEs, which are now O-levels, I think. I think that's what they're called now. And because I was gifted in school. I mean, whenever I was in primary school, I skipped out a year in primary school and got moved out because I had done all of the year 3 work in year 2 without my parents even knowing that. So my teacher brought them in one day and they were like, oh yeah, do you realize that we have to jump her a year because she's completed the curriculum? So it's kind of, academics was always something that was what was seen as being the natural path for me, like with family, friends, it was always that's what I was going to do. And maybe it was my rebellious side at that age, like if that's what everyone expects me to do, that's what I don't want to do. And this was something that could kind of, I don't know, push against what everyone expected. After the summer school dance and the idea of being able to do dance every day became my obsession, and my own little bubble that belonged to me. It was no one else was doing it, no one else wanted to do it. It set me apart from my circle of friends, and it felt like it was something that I had ownership over, or something that, because I had made a choice in it, then it was mine, and it wasn't that someone was pushing me into it. It was actually something that people were pushing me away from. Like my parents, they wanted me to go down the academic path, but I think probably that's what pushed me into it more. So I was preparing for my GCSE exams whenever I was 16, and that was the year then that I auditioned for upper schools. So upper schools of the vocational schools in England. So I auditioned for Elmhurst, English National Ballet, and the Royal Ballet at 16. So that would mean that I would go into a 3-year school course of training every day, with the hopes of then joining a company after that. And that's what I believed, because that's what we were told. We were told that if we joined an upper school, then that was how you got a job in the ballet world. I sent my resume for my auditions. I filled in the application forms, and I think at every little step it was like whenever I got accepted for the first audition, that was an achievement. I mean, we're talking about coming from a country that doesn't do this. I had been in a tiny little room being taught by the same woman since I was 4 or 5, and kind of being seen of in my own mind of knowing what I was doing, because within that little bubble in Northern Ireland, I did know what I was doing. I was doing like the most of what was possible to do. And then suddenly you get into a studio with girls who were vocationally trained and had been doing this since they were 11 every day. And I was like, oh, all right, okay. So then it really started to hit home of like what I was getting myself into. I was seeing, I think point shoes came into my training whenever I was about 13. And I'm talking like being on point for 15 minutes once a week in that level of training. So I remember whenever I was going into the auditions and it said, on point shoes, that there will be, it was like total dread, because I didn't do that. And, but yet this is what I wanted to do. Like complete contradiction. I wanted to do something that I had absolutely no understanding of what it was. So I went through the audition processes for Elmhurst, English National and Royal, and managed to get to the final audition level for each of the three. My parents, once I got it into my head that this is what I wanted to do, they backed me completely. And everything that they couldn't give me in support of knowledge or understanding, they backed financially, because that's all they could. So the audition process was at the time that I remember doing coursework for my GCSEs on planes and trains, but traveling kind of to London for the day to do a ballet class, and then traveling back to Northern Ireland, and then waiting every day for the post to come. I think that was one of the most exciting bits about it, like every day whenever the post landed through the letterbox. And it was at each stage, yes, you were successful, and the next audition is on this date. And then again, it was then my parents arranging for the trip to fly over, to stay in hotel, and they both came every time. But they loved the drama of it as well. It gave them some excitement. They got to come to London, they got to stay in a hotel. It became a little trip. It was so far removed from their realm of existence that it was all just fantastical and almost ridiculous whenever you've never entered the art world whatsoever, and to see that I wasn't a complete anomaly, and this was something that other girls wanted to do, and boys. And so it ended up that I got a place in Elmhurst with a full scholarship. I got a place in English National without a scholarship, and I didn't get a place in the Royal Ballet School. So then, and I think at that time English National was only a 2-year course as well, for their upper school, before then getting a job in a company. So then obviously financially, which was a deciding factor, it was Elmhurst. After I got my offer for a place in Elmhurst and I took that up, that would have been in the springtime. In the summer, I got the results of my GCSEs, which made my parents very happy. And then I joined Elmhurst it ended up in the October, because it was the new site up in Birmingham. They relocated from Camberley, which is where I did my audition. And then it relocated up to Birmingham because it became associated to Birmingham Royal Ballet. And I joined that from the October and started the 3-year course, which I did 2 years of. From the first day, I was like, okay, out of my depths completely, totally. Like, there was just I really genuinely had no idea what I was doing. I got myself into this vocational school in a classroom of girls that had been, I think there was a group of them that had trained all the way through White Lodge. There were girls that were coming from non-vocational schools, but more vocational, like we're talking at least 4 days a week for many years before joining. And then this little girl in the corner that just got on the whim on a dream. And it was really, like, it was hard. It was just, I don't know, it kind of, I got there and I was like, what am I doing, or what is this? I was told after my first year of training that I should find another career, and that there was no way that I would be able to catch up with the level and the level of the girls that I was even in that class with, let alone the rest of the schools in England and let alone the world. That it was too late. There was too much to try and achieve in the space of 3 years. The particular teachers that told me that then left after that first year, and a new teacher came in and taught my class, and that was Masha McMadoff, who is Erek McMadoff's wife. They both were placed in the school. He taught the senior boys and she taught the senior girls. Suddenly something clicked, be it her understanding of maybe my body, or she saw something in me that I had absolutely no understanding but was willing to really work. The complete and total rawness, or the complete lack of knowledge from me, that was just willing to be a sponge and just learn, because I didn't have any ounce of understanding whatsoever. Then after that 1 year, Erek got the contract to become the director of Greek National Ballet Company in Athens, and we were announced to as a school that they were leaving and they weren't going to be back in for the 3rd year. So at that point I was like, right, okay, this is great. I've trained with someone that I can actually work with, and could see that that was the only possibility of me ever having a career in the ballet world. And she wasn't going to be the teacher anymore. So I was like, right, okay. So then I was trying to sell myself the idea that no, it'll be fine. And I was like, no, don't be stupid. Like, it won't be. So I decided to quit school and not complete my 3rd year and get my diploma and follow Masha to train privately in Athens. Masha started to be my educator. She force-fed me ballet videos, DVDs. She would talk about the theatre, having been an ex-dancer with Bolshoi herself, having been at Erek's side his whole career. It was a real living experience with people who had lived the ballet world. Kind of the knowledge she had, the insight, the training that she had been through herself. Everything that she could, she passed it on to me. It was a complete crash course in ballet. It was everything that I was supposed to be learning from 11, I learned in 10 months. Whenever I won the Youth American Grand Prix, associated to that was a contract for ABT2, the junior company. So you would win Youth American Grand Prix, you would join the youth company, and then you go to ABT, American Ballet Theatre in New York. And at that point, that just terrified me beyond belief, because New York had never been in my headspace. It had never been something that I had thought of, and suddenly this was pushing me in that direction. So I totally freaked out, and I was like, it's too much right now. Like, I could just about do a ballet class now and stand on point. And the thought of, the thought of then going to New York and America, and it was too much, like altogether too much. And also because Royal Ballet was what stood for being the best company in not only England, but stood on the world on that platform. And being British, being part of the United Kingdom, it was always a dream to be a part of the Royal Ballet. So I got back from New York. I was like, I don't want it. I don't want it. And Masha was like, of course you want it. It's a contract. This is what you've been working for. And I was like, no, I can't. And so then, because Erek had been a dancer with the Royal Ballet Company, Masha was able to get in touch with Monica Mason from having worked within the company with Erek, and her name was known within the company and by Monica Mason, the then director. And she explained the situations. She told Monica that she had a girl that had just won the Youth American Grand Prix, and would Monica be interested to see her? And from my understanding of what was going on, then Monica said, yes, please send a DVD. So jet lag completely, and on this whirlwind of winning a competition, being my first time on a stage in a proper theatre and actually performing a solo in front of an audience, we then got back into our little studio and started making a DVD to send to the director of the Royal Ballet Company. So we did that. We sent the DVD to Monica. Monica saw the DVD and contacted Masha and said that I needed to come and take company class so that she could have a look at me. And so then I booked a flight to London and entered the Royal Opera House for the first time in my entire life. I didn't know the company. I didn't know the dancers of the company. I'd never seen the company dance live. I'd never watched a performance. I just got myself standing in the Ashton studio and did my audition class for the Royal Ballet Company, and then had a meeting with Monica after that class in her office, and she said she wanted to offer me a contract as a corps de ballet member of the company, and to call my parents and to have them come so that I could let them know, because they were just toddling around Covent Garden waiting for me, as you do. Absolute dream come true. In that moment, that was it. And then the dream became a reality. Coming from Northern Ireland to then go into a vocational school, to then go back into complete isolation and private training. Because I mean, that 10-month period that I was in Athens, I literally did nothing but see the studio and see my apartment. That was it. There was nothing but just ballet for that 10 months. So then I ended up living in London from that, in company class every day, into rehearsals for ballets that I had never seen live, to dancing and trying to stay in line behind company members, trying to pick up choreography, trying to basically survive in a world, again, that I had no idea what it entailed. I spent my first year totally as a corps de ballet, trying to keep my head down, keep my mouth shut, and do what I was supposed to do as a member of the company. And then it was towards the end of that first season, I was on +5 in the ballet rest area, and Wayne McGregor was rehearsing his Chroma, which was being put on. I think it was the second time. It was the restaging, or the time it was brought back after its premiere. And Alina Kojikaru was injured at that time, so they were trying to replace her with another dancer in the company. And I was up on +5, and I was, at that point, known for being hyper flexible and hyper mobile. And whoever I was with at that time caught Wayne's attention, and they were like, "Oh, have you met Melissa yet? Have you seen Melissa?" And Wayne was like, "Oh, no." And they were like, "Oh, do the pose." And there's a famous pose from the solo of Wayne's piece. So, be like a little puppet. I was like, "Oh, okay." So I did the pose, and then casting for the following season came out for Wayne McGregor's Infra, and my name was on the list against principals of the company. And at that time, I was first year corps de ballet in the company. And from that, I got a pas de deux created on me with Eric Underwood. And it kind of skyrocketed after that. It propelled me into the public's eye, from standing in corps de ballet to suddenly people being like, who is this girl? I think I remember things like people genuinely saying, who is this girl? Because it was from nowhere, from nothing. And it was quite it was quite provocative, it was extreme, and quite shocking at that time that a girl in the corps de ballet would get on the center stage and do what that pas de deux at that time was. But the thing is, because I had no understanding of what the etiquette or the rules, so to speak, or the tradition, I had no idea that it was standing for something that wasn't done. It wasn't like I was going against rules, it wasn't that I was breaking rules, it was literally that I didn't know what the rules of it was. And I was just trying to be my best in whatever environment or any scenario that I find myself in. I mean, who wouldn't grab an opportunity like that and try and do it to the best that they can? I joined 2007 and I worked myself up to the position of first soloist from corps de ballet through each of the ranks. And then in 2015, I asked Kevin O'Hare, who by that stage was the director of the company, if I could take a leave of absence to join Semper Opera Ballet in Dresden. The leave of absence, which is in our contract that any dancer within the company has a right to take, allows the dancer of the company to still be employed as a member of the Royal Ballet Company, but to use one season for work elsewhere, at their discretion, for development, for progression, for growth, for something that they particularly want to do at whatever point within their career, at the agreement of the director, of course. And I was approached by Jiří Bubinetček when I did Dance Open Gala in St. Petersburg. And I was dancing Wayne McGregor's Raven Girl pas de deux with Eric Underwood. And Jiří came to me after the gala performance, and he said that he was retiring in the following season and he wanted to retire with Manon, the Macmillan ballet. And it had never been done in Semper Opera Ballet before. He would be making his debut in it, and he asked me if I would be his Manon for his retirement performance. So at this point I thought, okay, yeah, great, whatever. It's all talk, that would be nice, that would be great, yeah, but okay. And then I got an email about a week later with an offer, and would I come to be his Manon? And I approached Kevin with that idea, and with the rep in the season and with the time of the scheduling between that and other performances that I would have been doing at that time, it meant that I would only really have been able to be there for a week or 10 days max before the production went on stage. Not even on stage, I think before the production went into shows. And I was like, wow, it's an amazing opportunity, but that's not going to be enough for me to actually pull a production together in that amount of time. And then I went into class with the company, and I talked with the director of the company, Aaron Watkins, and he was talking through different productions that were coming that following season along with Manon, and those included La Bayadère and Sleeping Beauty. And I was looking at repertoire within Royal that I would have done that season in regard to what I could potentially grow and gain by doing these productions in Semper Opera, and weighing it up at that point in my career and that age and what I could gain and develop in. I saw it as an opportunity to take the whole season and work there as a principal and do work that I hadn't done before and hadn't had the chance to grow in. So it was an opportunity that kind of presented itself. And because this career is so short and so unpredictable and unreliable, that it was an opportunity that came that I wanted to take. So I went to Dresden and I did one full season with Semper Opera, and that had really whetted my appetite. I worked in a different way. I had way less performances because of how their company works in comparison to the Royal Ballet Company. So there was a chunk of time purely just in rehearsal without performing. So I was preparing roles that then whenever I got on stage, I had been through a process with, without any other productions on stage. So I wasn't performing whilst rehearsing. And then when the season got announced for Semper Opera for the following season, Swan Lake was in their repertoire. And Swan Lake had been my absolute dream role from day one. Again, without understanding, without any backing or appreciation, or just because I saw it and I thought that's what I want to do. And so with that in mind, with the idea that this was a chance to actually fulfill one of my career-long dreams and goals, and the pinnacle in my mind of what I wanted to achieve in my career, I asked Kevin if I could extend the leave of absence, and managed to be granted that request and got to do my dream role. And now I'm back with the company, and this is now my second year back in my position with the Royal Ballet Company. So the story about Roberto Bolli. So that all kicked off at the end of, when would that have been? In 2015. I remember Roberto was here guesting with the company, but I can't remember what production he was here for at that time. And he approached Eric Underwood and he started talking about me because he knew me and Eric had danced together before. And Roberto has his shows and he has his summer tours and in Italy. And he asked Eric if he would be interested to do the summer tour and have me as his partner. And that was 2015. So that was just before I then joined Semper Opera in the September. And so then on that tour, me and Eric danced Wayne McGregor's Qualia and Christopher Wheeldon's Tryst. But I think it was about a month or so before we were due to do that summer tour, I got an email to ask whether it would be possible for me to dance Balcony Pas de Deux with Roberto himself. I don't know where that came from, whether there was someone else that was supposed to be on the tour that was due to dance with Roberto, and he knew from my repertoire that I had danced Juliet with Royal. So then I found myself in 2015 being Roberto Bolli's Juliet in Arena de Verona in front of 14,000 people. And I remember standing up on the massive arch that had stairs that you just should not have to run down before doing Balcony Pas de Deux. I was just thinking, don't fall, don't fall, don't fall. I had images of being like projected over the screens of me like tumbling to the floor. And I was just like, how did this happen? How did I end up having the orchestra play the Prokofiev score for one of the most famous pas de deux in the ballet repertoire, the full moon shining, I'm standing in Verona and Roberto Bolli is running down on stage, the crowd in this arena of like, and you know, whenever you're just like, how, where, what, just, I was like, okay, fine, okay. And and then after that, then we also did Apollo, which I had been lucky enough to dance previously in my repertoire with Royal Ballet. So it was the repertoire that he wanted on that tour. I had previously danced on the Royal Opera House stage, so it was a huge matter of luck that that was what my repertoire had been, and that fitted with his tour at that time. So then after that summer tour, then Roberto invited me back for more of his galas throughout the year whenever I was dancing with Semper Opera, and because my schedule was less hectic and less busy than what it would have been if I had been in Royal Ballet, it meant that I was able to accept these chances to do the galas. So within the 2 years that I took a leave of absence, I was able to guest quite a bit as Roberto Bolli's partner. And in that time, I had countless performances now on so many stages in Italy, and kind of would class Roberto as a friend, which I remember whenever I first joined the company, and the first production we did was La Bayadère, and there had been an injury in the company, and Roberto had been brought in to dance with one of the ballerinas at the time. And then to suddenly be at the other end of the spectrum where I was Roberto Bolli's partner in his own shows, in his own company, it's little moments like that whenever you take stock of your career and you see where you've come from and what you're doing now. And I think whenever it's so fast and everything snowballs and you're just continuing through it and you don't necessarily have a chance to see what's going on or the path or anything around, you just continue with the ball that's going down the hill. And I kind of take stock and to be grateful of everything that we do have is so important, I think. In my career, everything has presented itself to me, and I always feel that if I am trying to do my best in whatever situation or any scenario I'm in, then good things can only come from that. And there's only so much that you can control or that you can push down a certain path or you can drive, because we're not a single entity in the ballet world. There's too many other factors coming into play. You're not just you within a company. There are so many other careers and everyone is trying to push down their own path. So we don't make the decisions ultimately. We're not the ones that give ourselves a repertoire. But I have been incredibly blessed with what I have been given and can only do my best in whatever situation I'm in. Whether I choose to be in that situation or not is a different story. But I think if you try your best, only good things can come out of it. I don't do anything without careful thought. And from the outside, a lot of my moves look very impulsive and they look to some completely mad or without any understanding. But to me, they're completely logical and I have a reason for doing everything I do. I think if you really listen to your own instincts and you go with what, as scary as it might seem, and is off the cuff and off the road and possibly jumping off a cliff, I would always prefer that, and to find a way to make a parachute on the way down than to just teeter on the edge and wonder, oh, if I could do it.